Welcome to Unscripted, where we go one-on-one with people in the know of college admissions and financial aid. Today's guest is none other than Gary Bednorz, Regional Admission Counselor and Student Recruitment Specialist with the University of New Mexico. Gary, thank you for joining me.
Rob, thanks for doing this. I'm so happy to be part of the Unscripted family today, and I'm ready to talk about, you tell me.
Well, really there's two things I want to cover in our Unscripted meeting here, which is why should California students be considering the University of New Mexico? And then what is the Western Undergraduate Exchange and why should California students care? I'll let you take it from here.
Perfect. Well, I'm going to talk a little bit about myself. I am a graduate of the University of New Mexico, and I work for the University of New Mexico, but not at the University of New Mexico. I'm a regional admission counselor, which basically means I live in Southern California. I live in Ventura. And so colleges today are looking outside of their home state for students. Why would somebody from California consider the University of New Mexico? Great education, fabulous price. Let's start with the great education, because regardless of the price, if you didn't get a great education, would you want it? Well, here's the education. 1 out of 3 students is doing undergrad research, 200 different majors. University of New Mexico is located in Albuquerque. And you're probably thinking, Albuquerque, flat and hot? We're not. We're actually in the Rocky Mountains. Rob, I always like to say UNM, University Next to Mountains. So students, 4 seasons. And you're thinking, hot, hotter, and hottest? No, that's Arizona next door. But what we've got is a little bit of snow. There's a ski resort 20 minutes from campus. Snowboarding, skiing, outdoorsy types would do well at the University of Mexico. Now, the University of Mexico is in the center of Albuquerque, or as I say, UNM, University near the middle. Albuquerque, 600,000 people. So if you could picture the San Fernando Valley doubled, that's kind of Albuquerque-ish. And the university, 121 years of undergrad research, largest hospital in the state, part of the UNM campus. Engineering. Netflix recently purchased Albuquerque Studios, and they're using Albuquerque to do, guess what? Their US production. And I always say UNM, University for Netflix Movies. If you want to be part of that Netflix family, come to Albuquerque, New Mexico and go to school at UNM. So the majors, it runs the gamut. Everything in the health sciences, everything in the engineering. If you're looking to go into any kind of social science, we are politically connected with connections in Washington as well as Santa Fe, the state capital, 60 miles away from Albuquerque. But on the fine arts community, Albuquerque, Santa Fe, one of the art capitals of the US, of the world, whether it's the performance art or the studio art, University of New Mexico can build that foundation. Perfect environment. We're on the semester program. Rob, I loved going to college at UNM on the semesters. At this time of year, I was free to explore. I worked during the summers and I traveled a lot. Some of the places that I was able to go through the University of New Mexico was California, and I got to enjoy California quite a bit, but I also enjoy New Mexico. The cuisines, we have Mexican food in California. The New Mexican food's got a little different flavor. It's not hot and tangy and spicy, but it's just a unique take. So let's talk a little bit about the cost of going to the University of New Mexico. Students from California with good grades. And what's good grades? 3.0 will show you the dough to go to New Mexico. I always say, UNM, you need money, we've got scholarship. Here's an opportunity for a student to go out of state to a Tier 1 R1 research public institution, flagship of the state of New Mexico. What's flagship mean? We're the big dog in the big city that's going to help students graduate and be ready for that career. Total cost for a student from California with good grades are looking at about $9,000 for tuition and fees. Out of state for $9 grand, housing and dining. And this is an all-you-can-eat 24/7 meal plan, about $10,000. And about $1,000 for books. Tuition and fees, housing and dining, books, total cost 20 grand. The application process is pretty straightforward and simple. It's similar to what the Cal State application, no essay, no personal statement, no letters of recommendation. Students, they build a strong foundation in high school to be successful for the rigor of college. The University of New Mexico is going to look at a student's academic foundation. What classes did a student study? How did they do? Look, if by applying to college, you've said, hey, this is a school that has the majors I want, and it's an environment I want to live. We have virtual tours, but the University of New Mexico, it's the middle of June 2020 right now. We're in the pandemic world. The University of New Mexico is open for campus tours. Now it's limited, 5 students per, but New Mexico is a safe environment. We are planning on educating students safely this fall. Does that mean we're going to be completely wide open like we were last fall? Of course not. No one's going to be that way, Rob. But we are ready to help students. Students can apply today to the University of New Mexico and be admitted and not decide UNM until next May. Apply today, decide next May. That's what I say. Gary B, the way to play. Email me, it's free. So you've got my email on this. Let's talk a little bit about the Western Undergraduate Exchange, or WUE. Many people have heard about the WUE, and yes, it's an opportunity for students to go out of state and pay reduced tuition. Rob, are students looking for a deal?
Always.
I would think so. Guess what? I bought a car last summer and I worked that car dealer over. That was the sticker price, but here's what I paid. Well, you cannot do that with colleges, but we will tell you there's ways to get discounts. And so we're going to publish those. Public schools, it's public information. Private schools, we work together with students. Well, the University of New Mexico is a public school, the flagship in New Mexico. And we want students to be able to graduate without a lot of debt. Debt can saddle students long into the future. So be careful. Do you need to take a loan to go to New Mexico? Possibly, but when the total cost is $20,000 for tuition and fees, housing and dining, money for books, that's not cheap, but it's certainly not crazy expensive. What's the WUE program? Western Undergraduate Exchange. There are 86 colleges that formed a coalition, and it's spelled W-U-E, W-U-E, pronounced WUE. And so that coalition allows students from California to go to 13 neighboring states and pay reduced tuition. You have to be admitted to that college. That's the first qualification. Every school has qualifications. Students with a 3.0 and a rigorous class load, English, math, social science, natural science, basically the California A through G coursework, Rob, that's going to make a student eligible for admission and scholarship, the WUE program at New Mexico. WUE allows out-of-state students to pay reduced tuition. 86 schools, we're all public. Private schools, there's no in-state, out-of-state. You're either a resident of that state or not when you go out-of-state to a public school. If you're a resident of that state, you pay like a Californian would for Cal State or UC. At New Mexico, you can pay the same as a resident by applying and having that good grades, 3.0 or higher GPA. How do I find the list of schools? Just Google search WUE. If a student wants to email me or you, we provide them with the link as well. The email is available for students to each admission counselor for each university. I would say, Rob, that's the #1 point of contact. Look, I know a little bit about the Cal States, the UCs, but there's professional admission counselors ready to answer those questions. The WUE, let's say you want to go to Northern Arizona University or Colorado Mesa or University of Nevada, Reno. There's a group called Regional Admission Counselors of California, or RAC, or this website, regionaladmissions.com. There's 180 admission counselors living in California representing out-of-state schools. Why would out-of-state schools be interested in California students? There's 500,000 high school seniors per class of 2021 in California. 500,000. And there's 23 Cal States and 9 UCs. Yes, there's private schools as well. But guess what? There are more options beyond California, and those WUE schools today are reducing the tuition. Look, tuition isn't the total cost. The tuition is the major cost. There's also housing and dining, books, other ancillary costs, transportation. Well, students could fly from Southern California. There's an airport 3 miles from from the University of New Mexico campus in Albuquerque. Students can take a plane from LAX, Burbank, John Wayne, if we're in Southern California. You're in a 2-hour flight and you're on campus. Wonderful. You're in the Rocky Mountains setting of Albuquerque, New Mexico. Did I love going to the University of New Mexico? I've had 2 jobs since I graduated. This one may work out. The other one, I worked in LA. I ran a little business and it worked out fine. That's
well,
information to start with.
There's a couple of things that I want to jump in and make sure that everyone is aware of. Number one, I think it's a really important point that students understand that regional counselors like you are all over this state, know our campuses, know our high schools, know our kids, and they have the answers to these questions. And those questions can cover a lot of different ground. And at each of these schools, the answers can in fact be quite different, even in terms of how do you qualify for WUI. At your school, you're admitted, you're a WUI qualifier, I believe it's 3.0 or higher. Other schools might be a higher standard than a 3.0, but the admission standard could theoretically be lower. Every single school is different. Some schools allow for every single major at the school to qualify for WUI consideration. Others have limits on them. So it is incredibly important for high schoolers and their parents to ask questions of admission reps so they have straight answers, because these things change sometimes every single year. The second thing I wanted to point out is specific to the University of New Mexico. Now, you and I have known each other a very long time. And I can tell you I've recommended UNM to a lot of students, especially those who are in need of what I would consider a strong financial option. New Mexico is a generous state when it comes to education. The costs are low, especially compared to California. And the best part is, yes, most California students are going to qualify for admission. They're going to qualify for WUI consideration, which is going to keep the cost below anything at the public level in California. But even better, merit scholarships go right on top of that. And so you have told me a number of situations where students have literally paid nothing or even received a stipend back for being outstanding students.
All right, students with a 3.9 GPA or higher can qualify for the entire cost of attendance, which means they get their not only reduced tuition, they'll stack another $9,000 for tuition on top of that, housing and dining, money for books. University of New Mexico not only has those, there's departmental scholarships. If you're considered doing anything in bio, there's bio research. I have students this year that are graduating debt-free from the University of New Mexico, coming back to California and able to start their careers back here. I have a student that graduated in 3 years with a Bachelor of Science in Nursing from the greater Southern California area. 3 years, she did some AP coursework. So not only are we generous on the aid, we're generous on the transition. If students have done any AP coursework, taken the test and got a 3, a 4, or 5, guess what? 3's good, 4's better, 5's even better. So those strong students are wanted by New Mexico. We need more students. California, 500,000 high school seniors with options, but more options beyond California than in California.
That's for sure. And it's something that we at PCG talk about all the time is, look, there are 50 states. There are incredible options. I think at last count, there's somewhere between 1,650 and 1,700 4-year not-for-profit colleges and universities in the United States. Just because you're not a top 25 US News and World Report school does not mean you won't get an absolutely fantastic education, and frankly, at very likely, a fraction of the cost. And given what the colleges and universities are charging in this day and age, especially knowing more and more students are going to have to transition to a graduate school program to get the jobs they really want, it is imperative that students and parents be on the lookout for the best deals they can at the undergraduate level, schools that are also known for pushing them forward into those graduate programs. And that's where we really do want to look at things like US News and World Report, because the best law schools generally pay the best money. The best medical schools pay the best money. But at the undergraduate level, there's no data that points to that conclusion. It's about where do you fit and why do you fit there? And do you really want to study this particular thing? Does that school really offer it? And do they provide a good, robust program? This is where the homework comes in. But knowing there's a school like UNM out there, knowing there are programs like WUI out there is incredibly important for our families to recognize that there are some blessings on the horizon. They just need to be aware that they're out there. So
one of the things you mentioned, Rob, was FIT. And so I always say FIT is a acronym for filling it. It just felt right. And so FIT, there's actually 3, and that the University of New Mexico is looking for students: academic, social, financial. Academic. Students, if you've done the coursework and you've got good grades, if you're an A's and B's student, then we're ready for you. When you apply to New Mexico, we're going to evaluate that. Social fit, 16,000 undergrads at the University of New Mexico, 350 clubs and organizations. We're a D1 school, which means this fall, if things are playing the way we anticipate, the University of New Mexico will be at the Coliseum playing USC on September 12th. So we're a big school with all that school spirit. We're known for our basketball program, other clubs and organizations throughout campus. We've got a program that allows students to go to Washington, D.C. and work for one of our U.S. senators or for one of our Congress people each semester. Study abroad. I love the opportunity that I had to go to Paris, and I've been to France and Italy. Rome, man, I wouldn't drive there, but I'd go to school there for a semester. Absolutely. We also want students to think about that financial fit, and that's where the WUI program and the scholarship comes in. Students, it's so important. And parents would always say, if you don't have a financial fit, you will have a financial fit.
For more questions on the University of New Mexico and more questions on the Western Undergraduate Exchange, I encourage you to reach out directly to Gary, because he is all-knowing, he is all-seeing, he's omnipresent. He is at garyb@unm.edu. Gary Bednorz, as always, an honor and a pleasure to see you. Thank you for joining us on Unscripted today. And to all of you at home, thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful day.